My mother-in-law publicly branded me as defective because I can't have children, then systematically poisoned my boyfriend's mind, my childhood sweetheart, convincing him to leave me and shattering the life and future we dreamed of building together. I'm sorry, I can't remember the exact name for my condition. Basically, everything's there, but none of it works. My uterus doesn't produce lining, so I can never get pregnant. On the bright side, I've never had a period in my life. I'm 32. Somehow, my boyfriend's mom found out about my condition. I'm not sure how, maybe she overheard a conversation or someone in the family mentioned it. My own family knows, and I've told a few of his relatives too. When she confronted me, she told me flat out that her son couldn't marry someone who couldn't give him children. Of course, my boyfriend and I have already talked about it. Yeah, we were disappointed, but we've come to terms with it. We're okay with the fact that I can't carry children. But now, she's telling everyone in their family not to come to the wedding because she doesn't want her son marrying someone defective, someone who can't give him what she thinks he should have. If she ever changes her mind, that would be great, but at this point, I don't even want her at the wedding. I'm honestly afraid she'd say or do something to ruin it. My boyfriend loves his mom, but he's really torn about whether to invite her or not. We're now thinking about just having a small civil ceremony with a few close friends and relatives and letting her know afterward. But she won't even come over for dinner anymore, no matter how many times we invite her. I'm just getting tired of her calling me defective behind my back. His dad is fine with it. Most of his aunts and uncles are understanding. We've even talked about adoption, but she's against that too because the child wouldn't really be her grandchild. Just venting here. Thanks for listening. Update 1. I got 2 text messages today before what's probably going to be a tough night. One was good, the other not so much. The good one came from my future father-in-law. He said he's disgusted by how his wife is acting. He told me he loves me like the daughter he never had and that he thinks his son is lucky to have me. The second message was from his aunt. She basically said the same thing but added that her sister, my future mother-in-law, had called her, told her not to come to the wedding, and made a horrible comment about me. She said, "Why does she even have breasts? It's not like she's going to use them." So yeah, I'm really nervous about tonight. My boyfriend asked me not to come to the talk he's having with her because he thinks me being there would just make it worse. So after work, I'm just going to stay home, order a pizza, curl up on the couch, and watch TV while petting the cat. And no, that's not a euphemism. I mean my actual cat. She's comforting when I'm upset. Update 2. If you saw my last post, you know I can't have kids. My soon-to-be mother-in-law didn't like that and has been trying to sabotage our wedding, telling people not to come and calling me defective. Well, Tuesday night was the big talk. My fiancé and his dad were supposed to try to talk some sense into her. But she won. I don't know exactly what happened, but my fiancé came home afterward and we got into a huge argument. Even though we had talked about this before and were both okay with it, he suddenly said he wanted children, and if I couldn't give him that, the wedding was off. I said, "That sounds like your mother talking, not you." He replied, "I can speak for myself." It spiraled into shouting. I packed a bag and went to my parents' house for the night. The next day, I called in sick to work and just laid there, staring at the ceiling. We've known each other since I was 9, 23 years. We went from childhood friends to high school sweethearts. We went to college together. After graduation, we moved in together. I've never been with anyone else, and as far as I know, neither has he. We didn't rush to get married because it didn't matter, we were committed. That changed when my dad got sick and said he wanted to walk me down the aisle before his condition got worse. I'm his only daughter. Now, I've decided to give 2 months notice at work on Monday so I can train a replacement, then I'm moving back to Germany. I probably should have mentioned, my dad is German and my mom is American. They met when she worked overseas. I was born in Germany, lived there for a while, and still have family and friends there. My close friend, who had once offered to be a surrogate, said I can stay with her and her family until I get back on my feet. So yeah, not exactly a happy ending. The toxic mother-in-law won. She didn't just drive me away from her son, she drove me out of the country. Sure, I could stay in town or even just move to another part of the state, but I don't want to be here anymore. Too many memories. My support system is stronger overseas anyway, so that's where I'm going. I've been picked on for a lot over the years, my height, my accent, which is gone now. I sound like any Midwestern girl and plenty of other stuff. But this one really hurts. I used to tell myself, this is who I am, and if they don't like it, that's their problem. And I'm sure one day I'll say that about the situation too. But right now, it's just too raw. Thanks for listening. And thank you for all the kind messages. I'm sorry if this whole thing sounds rambling. I've been crying while writing and just needed to get it all out. Update 3. First off, thank you again for all your support and kind words. 2 strange things happened today. One was just plain weird, and the other was super embarrassing. During my lunch break, I went to the grocery store to pick up a few things for my mom. And guess who I ran into? Yep, Barbie. That's what I'm calling my ex's mom from now on, because I honestly don't know what else to call her. She was coming down one aisle. I was at the other end. We made brief eye contact, and then she immediately turned and bolted out of the store. I guess she had nothing to say. The second thing happened later. My dad came with me to the house to help me pack up my stuff. He's agreed to represent me when the house gets sold, just to make sure I get my fair share. While we were there, he just stood in the corner glaring at my ex the whole time. And then, my ex had the audacity to ask if we could sleep together one last time, right in front of my father. I snapped. I grabbed my sweater, yeah, the area of me you're probably imagining, and said, "You're never going to see these again, let alone touch them or do anything else with them." And then I walked out. He turned bright red and walked out the door, and my dad went from giving him that "you hurt my daughter, you're lucky to still be breathing" look to cracking up laughing the moment the door shut behind my ex. He said, "I can't believe you just did that." And I said, "Yeah, neither can I." Then we went home to have dinner with my mom. Halfway through the meal, she asked, "What does Vanessa's husband do again? The one you're moving in with in Germany?" Totally innocent question, but that was it for me. I just broke down. Big, ugly sobs. All of it came pouring out. After a while, my dad came over and carried me upstairs to bed like he used to when I was 5. I'm actually typing this from my laptop in bed right now. I told him to let mom know that she didn't do anything wrong. I just needed to let it all out. Unfortunately for her, she happened to be the one who asked at the wrong time. A coworker has already volunteered to take my cat, and my dad is going to keep my things, stuff like my tennis trophies, yearbooks, and photos, upstairs at his place. He said even though I may not want them right now, maybe in 5 years or so I will. So he's keeping them until I'm ready. Thanks again for all your kind words and support. I'll keep updating when I can and answer any questions. Update 4. I gave my notice at work today. Things have been kind of weird lately, and now I'm lying in bed with my laptop. First, at lunch today, a bouquet of a dozen roses showed up. The card said, "I'm sorry." That's it. No name, but I recognized the handwriting. I asked a coworker if she wanted to take them home for her daughter, but she said, "No, I know why you got them and I wouldn't feel right taking them." So, into the trash they went. Card and all. I was planning to wait until Monday to give notice, but the gossip mill at work had been working overtime the last couple days, so I just went in and told my boss. I said I'd stay to help train my replacement. Ironically, my last day is Valentine's Day. What a fitting end, right? I've got nothing better to do that day anyway. I'll spend the next couple of weeks saying goodbye, visiting some of my favorite places around town, and then on February 29th, my parents will drive me to Chicago, about 4 hours away, and I leave for Munich on March 1st. My friend Vanessa lives in Munich, so I'll stay with her for a few days while I figure out where to go and what to do. My hometown is about 2.5 hours away from there, and I still have some family there. So I'll decide soon if I want to stay in Munich, more opportunities, or move back to the small town. Maybe around 40,000 people? Not sure exactly. But it does have a castle and a big tin soldier museum, which is kind of cool. Today, I also went to meet with the realtor who's handling the sale of the house. I had to sign a bunch of paperwork giving my dad permission to make decisions for me regarding the sale. The realtor smiled and said, "No problem, I've worked with a lot of divorcing couples." And all I could think was, I was never even married. When I got home, we had dinner, and afterward, my mom and I sat down, and she braided my hair. It's always been our little ritual, our mom-daughter bonding time. We've done it before big moments, before my diagnosis, before the state tennis tournament, when I went off to college. And now again. I think this counts as a big moment. Later, my ex's best friend called. He heard what happened and said it was really messed up. He used stronger words, but I'll keep it clean. He invited me over to spend an evening with his family before I leave. I was always closer to his wife than to him, but I'll go anyway. Seriously, I can't thank this community enough for all the kindness and support. Sorry if I wander into random thoughts, my mind's kind of all over the place. Just a week ago, I thought I might be planning a wedding. Now, I'm planning to leave the country and start over. My mom even suggested we go to the zoo in Chicago on my last day in the US. We went there when we first moved here. She said it would be a fitting bookend to my 23 years in America. It really does feel like yesterday that we moved into our house, and this sweet boy and his mom brought over cookies to welcome us while I was out front trying to keep the dog from jumping on the movers. People and times change so fast. Update 5, just a heads up. There's an act of violence here. I'm still shaking. The main part wasn't directed at me, depending on your definition of violence. My ex came by my parents' place tonight and said he wanted to talk. I had a pretty good idea of what he was hoping would happen, but let's just say it didn't. We talked briefly. He apologized. I told him I was moving back to Germany soon. He started crying. I started crying too. I'll admit, I probably gave him the wrong impression. We hugged. While we were hugging, I didn't notice one of his hands slowly moving down my back until it was grabbing a handful of my butt. Once I realized what was happening, my body reacted before my brain did. I stepped back and slapped him. Hard. I'm 6 feet 1 inch, 155 pounds, and I've played tennis for over 25 years. That was a forehand slap. My hand is still stinging. He stumbled back, and I pointed to the door and yelled, "Get out." Though there may have been a few more colorful words in there. He looked completely stunned, lowered his head, and walked out. I heard his car start and drive off, and then I just collapsed in tears. Turns out, my dad had been standing just outside the door the whole time. He said later that he was listening in, just in case I needed backup. He came in, found me crying, and wrapped me in a hug. After a couple of minutes, while he was still holding me, I had this random thought that he might reach down and squeeze the other cheek. Totally inappropriate thought, I know, and I just burst into hysterical laughter. We stood there holding each other while I laughed and cried at the same time. I've been bouncing between laughing and crying. My mom came downstairs and brought everyone something to drink. A few minutes later, my phone rang. Caller ID said it was Barbie, my ex's mom, and the one who started this whole mess. I didn't hear her side of the conversation, so everything I know came from my dad afterward. According to him, she threatened to call the police on me for assaulting her son. My dad told her it was self-defense. My ex put his hands on me first. He added that we had cameras and could show everything to the cops if they came. We don't, but she didn't need to know that. She hung up, and no cops ever came, so either she was bluffing or my dad's threat scared her off. I'll admit, I missed the physical side of our relationship. He was my first for a lot of things: first date, first kiss, first time. But none of that makes up for the pain he and his mom caused me. I'd rather be celibate for life than let him touch me again. I shouldn't have let him hug me. It was a weak moment, and I've learned my lesson. I won't let it happen again. Thank you for reading and for all the kind messages of support. I didn't think I'd post another update after the last one, but of course, something else happened. Hopefully, unless I'm replying to a message or comment, this will be my last update until I'm finally in Germany and far away from all of this. It's late, and I'm heading to bed now. Update 6. There have been 2 lingering questions I hadn't found answers to until recently. 1. Why did he suddenly change his mind about everything? And 2. How did Barbie, his mother, find out? It wasn't public knowledge, and I certainly didn't tell her. I had my suspicions, and yesterday, I finally got confirmation. I was downtown on my lunch break, training the new girl who's replacing me. She's really sweet and seems competent. I'd have loved working with her under different circumstances. While I was out, I ran into Steve, my ex's childhood friend and next-door neighbor. They've known each other since they were about 3. He said he'd heard about our breakup and asked if it had anything to do with my infertility. That caught me off guard. Steve wasn't someone I'd ever confided in. So I asked how he knew. He told me what happened. According to him, and I'm just repeating what he said, can't vouch for every detail, he and Jack were working on Steve's old car. I don't know what kind, it's from the 60s and blue. I'm not a car person. For wheels, an engine, and a decent stereo is all I need. Before this, Jack and I had a very informal engagement. Think, what do you want on your toast? Looks like rain, should we get married? That kind of thing. But he wanted to make it official. He asked his parents for a family heirloom ring to propose with. When he explained why he wanted it, his mom ran upstairs in happy tears to find it. When she came back with the ring, she was crying and asked if I was pregnant. I guess, after 16 years together, she thought that might explain the sudden proposal. Jack joked that we already had the pitter-patter of little feet, our cat Babette. She replied, "No, I mean a baby." And then Jack said, right in front of her, "Mia can't have babies." Then he went into all the details of my medical history. Her response? She said something like, "This isn't happening," went back upstairs, returned the ring, and slammed the door. The very next day, she told me I couldn't marry him, started calling me defective, and kicked off this entire chain of events. After hearing the story, I told Steve that yes, my infertility was part of why we broke up. He said, "That's a shame, you two were such a great couple." Jack must be heartbroken. I said goodbye and went to lunch. When I got home later, I cried into my pillow until my dad came to get me for dinner. I'd always suspected Jack told his mom. And while it's not like I was keeping a dark secret, it's never been something I was comfortable sharing. Oddly enough, telling this whole story here to strangers has made me feel more at peace with it. So thank you again, truly, for being here and for supporting me. Update 7. This one's in 2 parts. Let's start with the good news. I left the US on March 1st and flew to Munich. On the flight, I sat next to an elderly woman who was terrified of flying. She was going to visit her son and his family. I don't remember what he does or why he's in Germany, but for the entire 10-hour flight, she clung to my arm like her life depended on it. Every bump in the air made her squeeze tighter. Thankfully, it was a relatively smooth flight. I ended up with a bruise, but at least she didn't dig her nails in. Once we landed and got through customs, she reunited with her son. This was all just before the quarantine and lockdowns really kicked off, so travel was still okay. Since then, I've mostly been staying at my friend's house, tutoring her kids in English and helping out. I had 3 interviews lined up before I arrived, but all of them were cancelled. My uncle in Kvok offered to drive 3 hours down to pick me up and bring me back to stay with him, but I haven't decided yet. Now for the bad. Apparently, Jack didn't take my leaving well. Normally, when my family and I flew back to Germany, we'd fly out of Cedar Rapids to either Chicago or Minneapolis, and then on to Germany. But this time, we drove to Chicago and flew out from there. A friend told me Jack drove to the Cedar Rapids airport to see me off, but I was already gone. When he didn't see me there, he assumed he got the time or date wrong. He sent a few letters to my house. My mom opened one and started reading it to me over the phone, but I asked her to stop. Even though we've always been open about sex and relationships, there were things in that letter I didn't want her to hear or me to hear from her. The letters stopped eventually. He lost his job, not because of the quarantine, just something else, and then wound up in jail. I still don't know the full story, but from what I've heard, he got into a fight with his mom. It turned physical, and his dad had to pull him off her. The cops were called, and he was arrested. I never would have imagined that happening, especially with his own mom. If only he'd fought for me like that back when it mattered, maybe things would have turned out differently. So now, here I am, bored but safe, and at least I'm not the one in jail. Sorry if there are typos. I lent my laptop to my friend's son, and ever since, it's been glitchy. He swears he didn't break anything, and I believe him. It was probably just an accident. Hope everyone out there is doing okay and staying safe. I'll catch you later, Mia. Update 8. I actually talked to him on the phone yesterday. Last I mentioned, he was in jail for assaulting his mother. I don't know if he's out on bail or if the charges were dropped, but he's been sitting in my parents' front yard for the past few days, doing absolutely nothing. Just sitting there. My dad wanted to go out and kick his ass, but my mom, who's way more level-headed, went out to talk to him calmly. I was gone, and he needed to move on and start his life over too. She called me to say just that. So, I decided to call him last night. He picked up. He sounded a little relieved that it was me, but also sad. Let me break this down. J is Jack. My XM is me, Mia. Or just me, whatever works. This is how I remember the conversation going. J, hello? Hey. I heard you were outside my parents' house. I'm not there anymore, so please stop bothering them. Jay, I was hoping the rumors weren't true, that you were still around and we could talk. I tried talking before and all you did was grope me like sex could magically fix everything. Jay, I'm sorry. I've never gone through a breakup before. I didn't know how to handle it. Well, neither have I, but I think I handled it a whole lot better. I just want to understand why. Jay, my mom didn't take it well when she found out you couldn't have kids. I had to do what she said. You're 32, Jack. You don't have to do what your mom says anymore. Jay, you just don't get it. No, I do. We talked about this before. We had solutions, but apparently none of them were good enough for her. So, you tossed our entire relationship like it meant nothing. Did it mean that little to you? Jay, you didn't have to leave. When are you coming back? Not for a couple of years. Once this pandemic is over, I'm hoping to find a job and a place of my own. Jay, come back. Please. I'm sorry, Jack. But you made your choice, Barbie, your mom, or me. I hope you two are really happy together. By now, he's crying. I'm trying not to. Jay, please come back. We could get married, adopt, whatever. I'm sorry. We can make this work. I told you there were options, but you threw them away, just like you did with me. And now Barbie's out here calling me defective and saying she'd never accept adoption. What's changed? Jay, you're not defective. I'm sorry. I can't control what she says. No, but you support her. You've known this about me since we were 16. Why is it a problem now? Jay, I don't like her calling you defective. And for what it's worth, I went to jail defending you. Maybe if you had defended me from the beginning, I wouldn't have had to leave. He just went quiet after that, whispering sorry over and over until the line went dead. I laid on the bed and cried until Victoria, my friend's oldest kid, knocked gently and said it was time for dinner. Sorry for the formatting. Still getting used to Reddit. And I know I might sound like a jerk, but when someone throws away a relationship that started in childhood, yeah, I'm going to be upset. Hope everyone's staying safe during this pandemic. When it's over, I'm hoping I can move on with my life here in Germany. Update number 9. I moved out of Vanessa's place this weekend. Her family was incredibly kind to take me in. When we planned all this, it was pre-pandemic. I figured I'd already have a job and my own place by now. My uncle offered to come get me, and I felt better taking him up on it than continuing to crash there. He drove down on Saturday, spent the night with some friends, and then we drove back up to catch on Sunday. That's where I'm staying now with him and his wife. I'm typing this in bed before I go to sleep. It's weird being here. I was born in this town and lived here until I was 9. Even when I came back for vacations, it never felt quite this strange. I don't know if it's because the town feels empty now, or if it's just everything I've been through. Honestly, I think I'm just stalling. I don't really want to get to the real part of the story. But here it is. Friday night, Jack called me. I still have my US phone and the same number from Iowa, so when it rang with his old ringtone, it caught me off guard. I picked up and yeah, I was rude. I said, "What do you want?" I apologized right after, and he said, "I just wanted to see how you're doing." Say hi. We started talking. It was actually going okay until I heard screeching in the background. Then a voice, "Is that her?" And Jack said, "I'm talking. Leave me alone." Then she got on the phone, Barbie, his mom, the one who started all of this. She yelled, "Leave my son alone. Haven't you done enough damage?" I hung up. She kept calling back. I didn't answer. But later, I checked my voicemails, and yeah, she went off. Said I ruined his life. Said he lost his job, which we both knew was going to happen. The company owner had announced retirement last year, gave everyone a 1-year notice, and even helped employees find other work. She said Jack lost his house. We sold it after the breakup. She said he was caught drinking in public, got drunk by the lake, and got picked up by the cops. I'd already heard that from someone else. She said he hit her. Honestly, I was kind of hoping he had finally stood up to her before his dad stepped in. And of course, she used her favorite insult, called me defective. Said that if she had known 16 years ago, she would have made sure her son ended up with a normal girl. She also said Jack had been talking about suicide. Said he felt like there was no point anymore. I tried calling back, but every time, she picked up and just kept screaming. So I gave up. Instead, I wrote Jack a letter. I sent it to my parents to drop off at his house. If I mailed it straight to him, Barbie would have probably intercepted it. In the letter, I told him I still loved him, that I wanted him to be okay, to move on, but that it was truly over between us. So now here I am, 5,000 miles away. The world's basically shut down. I'm living with my aunt and uncle, waiting for the chance to rebuild my life. Thanks for listening. And sorry again for any weird formatting. I think I'm going to put my laptop away and try to sleep now.